You know your marriage is in trouble when your wife's perfume smells like someone else's aftershave. I'm Roland Mercer, 39 years old, and I manage IT security at Boston University. Not exactly the kind of job that makes women swoon, but it pays the bills and keeps our historic brownstone in Cambridge from falling into foreclosure. My wife Catherine works in HR at Biogenesis Corp., one of those gleaming biotech companies downtown where everyone wears suits that cost more than my monthly salary. This morning, she's rushing around our bedroom like a tornado in designer heels, checking her phone every 30 seconds. The same phone that's been buzzing with notifications at all hours lately. Running late again? I ask from the doorway, watching her apply lipstick with surgical precision. Client meeting, she says without looking at me. Might be home late. Third client meeting this week. Funny thing about HR departments, they don't usually have clients. They have employees, policies, and the occasional lawsuit to handle. But what do I know? I just work with computers. Ethan's got his science fair presentation tonight, I remind her. She pauses, lipstick halfway to her mouth. Right, of course, I'll try to make it. Try. That's become her favorite word lately. She'll try to make dinner, try to come to bed at a reasonable hour, try to remember we're married. I head downstairs to find our 15-year-old son hunched over his laptop at the kitchen table, surrounded by poster boards and what looks like a small volcano made of papier-mâché. Morning, champ. Ready to blow some minds with that volcano? Ethan looks up with the kind of tired expression that belongs on someone twice his age. It's about renewable energy storage, Dad. The volcano is just the visual component. Smart kid. Gets that from his mother, though I like to think the sarcasm is all mine. Your mom might be late tonight, I tell him, pouring coffee into my favorite mug, the one that says, World's okayest dad. Shocking, he mutters, then catches himself. Sorry, I know she's busy with work. Busy, right, that's one way to put it. Catherine breezes through the kitchen like she's late for a board meeting, grabs her travel mug, and gives Ethan a quick peck on the forehead. For me, she manages a distracted wave. See you tonight, she calls over her shoulder, already heading for the door. The house feels quieter after she leaves, like the tension follows her around and dissipates when she's gone. Ethan notices it too. His shoulders relax, and he actually smiles when I make him scrambled eggs shaped like a smiley face, something I've been doing since he was 5. Dad? He says as we're getting ready to leave. Yeah? Are you and Mom okay? The question hits me like a sucker punch. Kids see everything, even when you think you're hiding it well. We're fine, buddy, just going through a rough patch. These things happen. He nods, but I can tell he's not buying it. Smart kid, like I said. At work, I lose myself in the familiar rhythm of system updates, security patches, and the occasional panicked call from a professor who's forgotten their password for the 15th time this semester. It's mundane work, but there's something comforting about problems that have clear solutions. Around noon, my phone buzzes with a text from my sister Sophie. Lunch? I'm buying. Sophie is 2 years younger than me, a former Boston PD officer who now works private security. She's also the only person in my family who never liked Catherine, which used to annoy me. Lately, I'm starting to think she was onto something. We meet at Murphy's Pub, a dive bar near campus that serves the kind of greasy food that'll either cure a hangover or cause one. You look terrible, Sophie says by way of greeting. Nice to see you too. She slides into the booth across from me, her sharp eyes taking in everything. The bags under my eyes, the way I'm hunched over my beer, the general air of defeat I've been carrying around lately. Talk to me, Ro. What's going on? I consider lying, making up some story about work stress or financial worries. But Sophie has a built-in radar for nonsense, probably developed during her years dealing with criminals and politicians, though I repeat myself. I think Catherine is having an affair. The words hang in the air between us like smoke. Sophie doesn't look surprised, which tells me everything I need to know about how obvious this has been to everyone except me. How long have you suspected? Couple of months, maybe longer. She's been working late, taking calls in the other room, going on business trips that seem more like vacations. Any idea who? I take a long pull from my beer before answering. Philip Grayson. He's a director at her company. Saw them together at the company holiday party last year. The way they looked at each other... I trail off, remembering the electricity between them, the way Catherine's whole demeanor changed when he walked into the room. Sophie leans back in her seat, processing this information. What are you going to do about it? What can I do? Confront her? She'll just deny it? Hire a private investigator? With what money? File for divorce and hope for the best? Or, Sophie says, leaning forward with the kind of look that used to precede her more creative arrests, you could get smart about it. What do you mean? You work in IT security, Ro. You know how to find information, how to trace digital footprints. You're married to her, so you have access to things a PI wouldn't, and if this Philip guy is using company resources to conduct his affair, well, that's a whole different kind of problem for them. She's right, of course. I've been thinking like a victim when I should be thinking like a professional. Information is power, and information is exactly what I'm good at finding. That evening, Ethan's science fair presentation goes off without a hitch. His project on renewable energy storage using volcanic thermal principles is impressive enough to earn him second place and a ribbon that he wears with genuine pride. Catherine shows up just as he's finishing, slipping in the back of the gymnasium with her hair slightly messed up and her lipstick gone. "Sorry I'm late," she whispers, sliding in next to me. "Traffic was terrible." Traffic, at 8 p.m. on a Tuesday. Sure, but I smile and nod, playing the understanding husband while my mind races with possibilities. Sophie's words echo in my head. Get smart about it. At home, after Ethan's gone to bed and Catherine's in the shower, I find myself standing in front of her laptop. It's sitting on the kitchen counter, closed but not locked away. She's always been careless with security, uses the same password for everything, never logs out of her accounts, leaves her devices lying around like they're disposable. My fingers hover over the keyboard. This is a line, and once I cross it, there's no going back. But then I think about the lies, the late nights, the way she looks right through me like I'm invisible. I open the laptop. Her email is still logged in, of course. Hundreds of messages, mostly work-related, but buried in there are personal folders I've never noticed before. One catches my eye. Fun. The folder is password protected, but I know Catherine. She uses variations of the same password everywhere, usually Ethan's name followed by significant dates. It takes me 3 tries to crack it. What I find inside makes my stomach turn. Emails between Catherine and Philip, dozens of them, going back 6 months. The early ones are flirtatious but professional. The later ones are explicit in ways that make me wish I'd never learned to read. But it's not just the personal content that catches my attention. It's the business side of their relationship. Expense reports for hotel rooms charged to the company, dinner receipts for 2 at restaurants I could never afford, travel authorizations for conferences that don't seem to exist. And through it all, Catherine's electronic signature approving every expense, every trip, every misuse of company funds. They haven't just been having an affair, they've been stealing from Biogenesis to fund it. I sit back in my chair, staring at the screen. Sophie was right. I needed to get smart about this. But she had no idea just how stupid Catherine and Philip had been. My phone buzzes with a text message from an unknown number. "Watch your back. Cat and Phil are planning to get you fired and take the house." I stare at the message, reading it 3 times before it sinks in. Someone else knows about the affair, someone who's apparently on my side, or at least against theirs. I screenshot everything I can find, save it all to an encrypted drive, and close the laptop. When Catherine comes downstairs in her bathrobe, I'm sitting at the table reading a book like nothing happened. "Good presentation tonight," she says, pouring herself a glass of wine. "Ethan did great. You should be proud." She nods absently, already scrolling through her phone. "I have to travel next week. Chicago. Big client presentation." Another lie. According to the emails I just read, she and Philip are planning a long weekend at the Four Seasons. On the company's dime, naturally. "That's nice," I say. "I'm sure you'll do great." She looks at me then, really looks at me, like she's trying to figure out if there's a hidden meaning in my words. But I just smile and turn the page of my book. Let her wonder. I've got work to do. The next morning, I call in sick to work. First time in 3 years, but I need time to think, to plan, to figure out exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes. Catherine left early for another client meeting, and Ethan's at school, so I have the house to myself. I spread everything out on my desk like a detective working a case. Printouts of emails, expense reports, travel authorizations, credit card statements I pulled from our joint account. The picture that emerges is worse than I thought. Catherine and Philip have been systematically defrauding Biogenesis for months. Hotel rooms, dinners, weekend getaways, even a spa package in the Berkshires. All of it charged to various departmental budgets and approved by Catherine. The total comes to just over $40,000. But it's the personal emails that really twist the knife. Philip's messages are full of casual cruelty about me. "Can't believe you're married to that loser." "How do you stand going home to him every night?" "When are you going to leave that burden behind?" And Catherine's responses are even worse. She agrees with him, laughs at his jokes about my appearance, my job, my general existence. In one particularly painful exchange, She describes our intimate life in terms that make me feel like a specimen under a microscope. The final email in the chain, sent just yesterday, contains the bombshell that anonymous text warned me about. They're not just stealing from the company, they're planning to frame me for it. The plan is elegant in its simplicity. Philip will discover the fraudulent expenses and report them to corporate security. The investigation will lead back to me through a series of forged documents that make it look like I've been hacking into Biogenesis systems and manipulating their financial records. As my wife, Catherine will be devastated by the betrayal, of course, but she'll have no choice but to cooperate with the investigation. When the smoke clears, I'll be facing criminal charges. Philip will be hailed as a hero for uncovering the fraud, and Catherine will file for divorce and take everything. The house, custody of Ethan, probably my pension too. It's a good plan. It might have even worked if they hadn't been stupid enough to discuss it over company email. My phone rings, interrupting my brooding. It's Sophie. How are you holding up? She asks. Better than expected, actually. I found some interesting reading material on Catherine's laptop. I give her the broad strokes. The affair, the fraud, the plan to frame me. She listens without interrupting, though I can practically hear her taking notes. Jesus, Ro, this is bigger than just an affair. You're talking about felony fraud and conspiracy. I know. The question is, what do I do about it? You fight back. But you do it smart. Do you have copies of everything? Multiple backups, all encrypted and stored off-site. Good. Now you need to think about timing. If you move too fast, they might be able to cover their tracks. Too slow, and they'll execute their plan first. She's right, as usual. I need to be strategic about this. Hit them when they're not expecting it, in a way that maximizes damage and minimizes their ability to respond. I have an idea, I tell her, but I'm going to need your help. That afternoon, I drive to downtown Boston to scope out Biogenesis Corp. It's one of those gleaming glass towers that screams success and innovation, the kind of place where people like Philip Grayson thrive and people like me are invisible. I park across the street and watch the entrance, timing the flow of employees, security guards, delivery personnel. At 5:30 p.m., I spot Catherine emerging from the building with a group of colleagues. She's laughing at something one of them said, looking relaxed and happy in a way she never does at home anymore. 15 minutes later, Philip Grayson appears. Tall, handsome in a generic corporate way, wearing a suit that probably costs more than my car. He looks around carefully before pulling out his phone and making a call. Even from across the street, I can see the satisfied smile on his face. They don't leave together. Too risky, I suppose. But I follow Philip to a parking garage 3 blocks away. His car is exactly what I expected. A silver BMW sedan with vanity plates that read Pigre 1. Because of course they do. That evening, Catherine comes home in an unusually good mood. She actually asks about my day, compliments dinner, and even suggests we watch a movie together. It's the most attention she's paid me in months, and under normal circumstances, I might have been hopeful. Instead, I recognize it for what it is. Guilt. Or maybe practice. She's rehearsing for the role she'll have to play when my world comes crashing down, the shocked, betrayed wife who never saw it coming. Everything okay at work? I ask as we settle onto the couch. Fine. Why do you ask? You seem happy, relaxed. She gives me a look I can't quite read. Can't I be happy without there being a reason? Of course. I'm glad you're happy. And I am, in a way. Because happy people make mistakes. Confident people get careless. And careless people leave trails that someone like me can follow. The movie is some romantic comedy that Catherine picked, full of misunderstandings and grand gestures and the kind of happy ending that only exists in Hollywood. I watch her watching it, noting the way her face lights up during the romantic scenes, the way she unconsciously touches her phone when it buzzes with notifications. I should probably get some work done, she says when the credits roll. Big presentation tomorrow. The Chicago trip. Right. Need any help? I offer, knowing she'll refuse. No thanks, it's pretty technical stuff, HR policy revisions. Another lie. Delivered so smoothly, I almost admire the technique. She's had a lot of practice lately. I head upstairs to check on Ethan, who's doing homework with the kind of focused intensity that reminds me why I'm doing all this. Whatever happens between Catherine and me, he doesn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire. Hey, Dad, he says as I'm about to leave his room. What's up? That science fair judge? The one from MIT? She said if I'm interested in engineering, I should start thinking about summer programs. That's great, buddy. We'll look into it. He nods, then hesitates. It's pretty expensive, though, like really expensive. Don't worry about the money. We'll figure it out. It's a promise I intend to keep, even if everything else in our lives is about to change. Later that night, after Catherine's gone to bed, I sit in my home office and plan my next move. I have all the evidence I need, but evidence is only useful if you know how to weaponize it. I think about corporate hierarchies, about who has the power to act on what I've discovered. Philip reports to the Vice President of Operations, a woman named Janet Morrison, who has a reputation for being tough but fair. Catherine's boss is the Chief Human Resources Officer, David Chen, who's been with the company for 15 years and takes policy violations seriously. But going directly to them feels too risky. They might feel obligated to warn Catherine and Philip, give them a chance to explain or cover their tracks. I need someone with authority but no personal loyalty to either of them. That's when I remember Edith Stanton. Edith is the Director of Corporate Compliance, a position that didn't exist when Catherine first started at Biogenesis but was created after a series of scandals at other biotech companies. She's in her 50s, has a background in forensic accounting, and according to the company website, she reports directly to the CEO. Perfect. I spend the next hour crafting an email that will change everything. It needs to be professional, factual, and impossible to ignore. I attach selected evidence, enough to prove my claims without overwhelming the reader, and include a detailed timeline of the fraudulent activities. The subject line reads, Urgent, Suspected Financial Fraud and Policy Violations. I hover over the send button for a long moment, knowing that once I click it, there's no going back. Then I think about Catherine upstairs, probably texting with Philip about their upcoming trip, planning my downfall with the same casual efficiency she brings to everything else. I click send. The email disappears into the digital ether, carrying with it the power to destroy 2 careers and change 3 lives forever. I should feel guilty or scared or something. Instead, I feel oddly calm. Sophie was right. I needed to get smart about this. Mission accomplished. I don't sleep much that night. Every time I close my eyes, I imagine Edith Stanton opening my email, reading through the evidence, picking up her phone to call security. By morning, I'm exhausted but strangely energized, like a runner at the starting line of a marathon. Catherine is already gone when I get up. Early flight to Chicago, she claimed, though I know she's probably meeting Philip at Logan Airport for their romantic getaway. She left a note on the kitchen counter. Back Sunday. Love you. The casual cruelty of it takes my breath away. Love you. 2 words she's been saying out of habit while planning to destroy my life. I get Ethan off to school and head to work, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy while my phone burns a hole in my pocket. Every notification could be the one that changes everything. At 10:30 a.m., it comes. The email is from Edith Stanton's assistant, brief and professional. Ms. Stanton would like to schedule a meeting at your earliest convenience to discuss your recent correspondence. Please reply with your availability. I stare at the message, reading it 3 times. They're taking it seriously. They want to meet. I reply immediately, suggesting this afternoon if possible. The response comes back within minutes. 2 p.m. today at Biogenesis Corp., 47th floor. Please bring any additional documentation you feel may be relevant. The rest of the morning crawls by like molasses. I try to focus on work. There's a security audit due next week, and the university's email servers need updating, but my mind keeps drifting to the meeting. What will Edith Stanton be like in person? Will she believe me? Will she act on what I've told her? At 1:30 p.m., I'm standing in the lobby of Biogenesis Corp., wearing my best suit and carrying a briefcase full of evidence. The building is even more impressive from the inside, all marble and chrome and the kind of aggressive modernity that's supposed to intimidate visitors. The elevator ride to the 47th floor feels like it takes forever. When the doors finally open, I'm greeted by a receptionist who looks like she stepped out of a corporate recruiting brochure. Roland Mercer to see Edith Stanton, I tell her. Of course, she's expecting you. Right this way. Edith Stanton's office is corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a spectacular view of Boston Harbor. The woman herself is exactly what I expected. Mid-50s, silver hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, wearing a navy blue suit that probably costs more than I make in a month. But her handshake is firm, her smile genuine, and her eyes sharp with intelligence. Mr. Mercer, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat. I settle into a leather chair across from her desk, trying not to fidget with my briefcase. I've reviewed your email and the attached documentation, she begins, getting straight to the point. These are serious allegations you're making. Yes, ma'am, I understand that. I wouldn't have come forward if I wasn't certain of my facts. She nods, opening a file folder on her desk. Let's go through this systematically. You're alleging that Philip Grayson and Catherine Mercer have been using company resources to fund a personal relationship. That's correct. Hotel rooms, dinners, travel expenses, all charged to various departmental budgets and approved by my wife. And you believe this has been going on for approximately 6 months? Based on the documentation I've seen, yes. She makes a note, then looks up at me with those sharp eyes. Mr. Mercer, I have to ask, how did you come by this information? Some of these documents would not normally be accessible to someone outside the company. I'd prepared for this question, but it's still uncomfortable to answer. My wife left her laptop open at home. I saw emails that concerned me, so I investigated further. I see. And what prompted you to bring this to the company's attention rather than handling it as a personal matter? Because it's not just personal. They're stealing from Biogenesis. And I hesitate, then decide to go all in. Because I have reason to believe they're planning to frame me for their crimes. Her eyebrows rise slightly. That's a very serious accusation. I open my briefcase and pull out printed copies of the emails discussing their plan. I think you should read these. She takes the papers and reads through them carefully, her expression growing more grave with each page. When she finishes, she sets them down and looks at me with something that might be sympathy. Mr. Mercer, if these documents are authentic, we're looking at potential criminal fraud, conspiracy, and abuse of corporate resources. This goes far beyond a simple policy violation. I understand that. I also understand that my personal relationship with one of the accused parties puts me in a difficult position, but I felt the company had a right to know. She nods slowly. You did the right thing coming to us. However, I need to be clear about what happens next. We'll be conducting a full investigation, which will likely involve law enforcement. This could take weeks or months to resolve. Are you prepared for that? Yes, ma'am. And you understand that your wife will inevitably learn that you are the source of these allegations? I understand. She closes the file folder and leans back in her chair. Very well, I'll be initiating an immediate investigation. In the meantime, I need you to keep this conversation confidential. Don't discuss it with anyone, including your wife. Of course. One more thing, Mr. Mercer. Do you happen to know where Ms. Mercer and Mr. Grayson are today? I can't help but smile slightly. According to my wife, she's in Chicago on business. According to the emails I found, they're both at the Four Seasons downtown, in a suite charged to the company's client entertainment budget. Edith Stanton returns my smile, and for the first time, I see a hint of steel beneath her professional demeanor. How convenient. That will make things much easier for our investigators. The meeting ends with handshakes and assurances that I'll be kept informed of any developments. As I wait for the elevator, I feel a mixture of relief and anticipation. The wheels are in motion now. There's no stopping what comes next. My phone buzzes as I'm walking back to my car. A text from Catherine. Hotel is beautiful. Wish you were here. The casual lie is almost impressive in its audacity. She's probably sending it from the same suite where she and Philip are celebrating their cleverness, planning their next move against the husband who's too stupid to see what's happening right under his nose. If only she knew. That evening, I pick up Ethan from school and take him out for dinner at his favorite restaurant, a little Italian place near campus where the portions are huge and the prices are reasonable. He's excited about a robotics club he's thinking of joining, and I listen to him talk about servo motors and programming languages while trying not to think about how this might be one of our last normal evenings together. Dad, you're being weird, he says suddenly. What do you mean? You keep staring at me like you're trying to memorize my face or something. Smart kid. Too smart for his own good sometimes. Just thinking about how grown up you're getting. Robotics club, summer engineering programs. Pretty soon you won't need your old man anymore. He rolls his eyes. That's not how it works, Dad. You're stuck with me forever. Good. I like being stuck with you. We finish dinner and head home, where Ethan disappears into his room to work on homework, while I pace the house like a caged animal. The waiting is the hardest part. Somewhere across town, investigators are probably reviewing security footage, interviewing hotel staff, building a case that will bring Catherine and Philip's world crashing down. I wonder what they're doing right now. Are they having dinner at some expensive restaurant, toasting their upcoming victory? Are they in bed, celebrating their cleverness? Or are they starting to realize that something's gone wrong? My phone rings at 9:47 p.m. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Mercer? This is Edith Stanton. I hope I'm not calling too late. Not at all. What can I do for you? I wanted to give you an update on our investigation. We've confirmed the presence of both subjects at the Four Seasons, registered under the names you provided. Hotel records show multiple previous visits, all charged to company accounts. I see. We've also begun a preliminary review of expense reports and found additional irregularities going back nearly 8 months. The scope of this fraud appears to be significantly larger than your initial report suggested. 8 months. They've been stealing from the company almost since their affair began, getting bolder and more careless as time went on. What happens next? I ask. Tomorrow morning, we'll be conducting interviews with both subjects. I wanted to give you advance warning. Your wife will likely contact you once she realizes what's happening. I understand. Mr. Mercer, I want you to know that the company appreciates your courage in bringing this matter to our attention. Not everyone would have done the right thing under these circumstances. After she hangs up, I sit in my kitchen and wait. Somewhere in downtown Boston, Catherine and Philip are about to have the worst morning of their lives. And for the first time in months, I find myself genuinely smiling. The game is about to begin. Friday morning arrives with the kind of crisp autumn air that makes Boston beautiful and the kind of anticipation that makes my hands shake as I pour my coffee. Ethan's already left for school, and I'm alone in the house, waiting for the phone to ring. It doesn't take long. At 9:23 a.m., my phone explodes with Catherine's ringtone. I let it go to voicemail. She calls back immediately. I let that one go too. The third call comes 30 seconds later, and I finally answer. Hello? Roland. Her voice is shrill, panicked. Something terrible has happened. The company, they're saying, this is all a mistake. Slow down, Catherine. What's going on? They're accusing me of fraud. Corporate security showed up at the hotel this morning with investigators and... Roland, they're saying I stole money from the company. The performance is impressive. If I didn't know better, I might actually believe she was innocent. That's crazy, I say, injecting just the right amount of concern into my voice. What kind of fraud? Expense reports, travel authorizations. They're saying I approve payments for personal expenses. But I would never... Roland, you have to believe me. I would never steal from my company. Of course you wouldn't. This has to be some kind of misunderstanding. They've suspended me pending investigation. They escorted me out of the building like a criminal. What about Philip? Is he involved in this somehow? There's a pause, and I can practically hear her calculating how much to reveal. They're investigating him too. Apparently some of the expenses were charged to his departmental budgets. That's terrible. Are you coming home? Yes, I'm catching the next flight. Roland, I'm scared. What if they press charges? What if I lose my job? We'll figure it out, I tell her. We'll get a lawyer if we have to. The truth will come out. The truth. If only she knew. After she hangs up, I call Sophie and give her the update. She listens with the satisfaction of someone whose predictions have come true. How long before she figures out it was you? She asks. I'm hoping she'll be too panicked to think clearly at first, but eventually she'll realize someone had to provide evidence for the investigation. And then? And then things get interesting. Sophie chuckles. You're enjoying this, aren't you? More than I should, probably. Good. It's about time you fought back. The rest of the day passes in a strange state of suspended animation. I go through the motions at work, but my mind is elsewhere, imagining the chaos unfolding at Biogenesis Corp. Investigators interviewing employees, accountants reviewing expense reports, lawyers discussing criminal charges. At 3:30 p.m., I get a call from Ethan's school. He's in the nurse's office with a stomachache, asking to go home early. When I pick him up, he looks pale and worried. I heard some kids talking, he says as we drive home. Something about Mom's company on the news. Is she in trouble? I'd hoped to have more time before this reached him, but news travels fast in the digital age. Your mom's company is investigating some financial irregularities, I tell him, choosing my words carefully. She's cooperating with the investigation, but it's stressful for everyone involved. Is she going to jail? The blunt question catches me off guard. No, buddy, nothing like that. This is just corporate stuff, boring adult problems that will get sorted out. He nods, but I can see he's not convinced. Smart kid. He knows something big is happening, even if he doesn't understand what. Catherine arrives home at 6:15 p.m., looking like she's aged 5 years in one day. Her usually perfect hair is disheveled, her makeup smeared, her designer suit wrinkled. She drops her suitcase in the hallway and collapses onto the couch like a marionette with cut strings. It's a nightmare, she says without preamble. They've frozen my access to company systems, suspended my corporate credit cards, assigned me a lawyer from legal. They're treating me like a criminal. What exactly are they accusing you of? I ask, sitting across from her. Approving fraudulent expense reports, using company resources for personal benefit, conspiracy to commit fraud. She laughs bitterly. Conspiracy, like I'm some kind of mastermind. What about Philip? Her face hardens. What about him? You said they were investigating him too. Have you talked to him? Briefly. He's blaming everything on me. saying I pressured him into submitting false expense reports, that I abused my authority in HR to approve things I shouldn't have. The betrayal in her voice is almost funny. She's shocked that her partner in crime is throwing her under the bus to save himself, apparently unaware that she was planning to do the same thing to me. That's terrible, I say. After everything you've done for that company, for them to turn on you like this. She looks at me then, really looks at me, and I see something shift in her expression. Suspicion, maybe, or the first glimmer of understanding. Roland, she says slowly, how did you know Philip was involved before I told you? My heart rate spikes, but I keep my voice steady. You mentioned him when you called this morning. You said they were investigating him too. Did I? She frowns, trying to remember. I was so upset, everything's a blur. You were panicked, understandably. She nods, but the suspicion doesn't leave her eyes. The investigators asked me about my home computer, whether anyone else had access to it. I told them no, of course, but what? But they seemed to know things. Details about conversations, about meetings, things that weren't in official company communications. I shrug. Corporate investigations are thorough. They probably interviewed dozens of people. Maybe. She's still watching me carefully. Roland, if you knew something about this situation, you would tell me, wouldn't you? The question hangs in the air between us like a loaded weapon. This is the moment of truth, the point where I could confess everything and beg for forgiveness. The old Roland might have done exactly that. Instead, I lean forward and take her hand. Catherine, you're my wife. Of course I would tell you if I knew something that could help. The lie comes so easily it surprises me. Maybe I'm better at this game than I thought. She squeezes my hand, and for a moment, I see a flicker of the woman I married 15 years ago. Vulnerable, scared, looking to me for comfort and support. I'm going to fight this, she says. Whatever it takes. I won't let them destroy my career over some accounting discrepancies. Accounting discrepancies. That's what she's calling $40,000 in fraudulent expenses now. I'll support you however I can, I tell her. Thank you. I know things have been difficult between us lately, but knowing you're on my side means everything. If only she knew which side I'm really on. That evening, we have dinner as a family for the first time in weeks. Catherine makes an effort to act normal for Ethan's sake, asking about school and his robotics club and the summer engineering programs we discussed, but I can see the strain in her eyes, the way she keeps checking her phone for messages that don't come. After Ethan goes to bed, she pours herself a large glass of wine and settles onto the couch with her laptop. What are you working on? I ask. Trying to reconstruct my expense reports, figure out where this all went wrong. There has to be an explanation for the discrepancies. I watch her scroll through documents, her brow furrowed in concentration. She's looking for innocent explanations for guilty actions, trying to find a way to spin fraud as misunderstanding. Find anything useful? Maybe. Some of these charges. I remember approving them, but the context is unclear. It's possible there were legitimate business reasons that aren't properly documented. Legitimate business reasons. Right. My phone buzzes with a text message. Unknown number again. Check the local news tomorrow. Your wife's about to become famous. I delete the message and glance at Catherine, still absorbed in her laptop. She has no idea what's coming. The corporate investigation is just the beginning. Once the media gets hold of this story, biotech executive and HR director caught in fraud scandal, it'll be a feeding frenzy. I'm going to bed, I tell her. I'll be up in a while. I want to finish reviewing these documents. Don't stay up too late. You need your rest. She looks up and smiles, the first genuine smile she's given me in months. Thank you for being so understanding about all this. I know it can't be easy, having your wife accused of corporate fraud. We'll get through it, I say. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Another lie, delivered with practiced sincerity. I'm getting disturbingly good at this. As I head upstairs, I can hear her typing furiously, probably crafting emails to lawyers and colleagues, trying to control the narrative before it spirals completely out of her hands. Too late for that. The story's already been written, and she's not the hero. Saturday morning brings the local news coverage I was warned about. The story runs during the 8 a.m. broadcast. Biogenesis executive suspended in fraud investigation. Catherine's corporate headshot appears on screen alongside Philip's, both looking confident and successful in that generic corporate way. I'm drinking coffee in the kitchen when the story airs, having deliberately turned on the news before Catherine comes downstairs. She appears just as the anchor is describing alleged misuse of company resources for personal expenses, and stops frozen in the doorway. "Oh my God," she whispers, staring at her own face on television. "Catherine, I'm so sorry," I say, rushing to turn off the TV. "I had no idea they were going to... Everyone's going to see this. My colleagues, my friends, Ethan's teachers." She sinks into a chair, her face pale. "They used my company photo. How did they even get that?" "Corporate websites are public. Reporters probably pulled it from there." She nods absently, then grabs her phone and starts scrolling frantically. I need to see what else is out there. Social media, online news sites. What she finds isn't pretty. The story has been picked up by several business publications, each adding their own details about the investigation. Her LinkedIn profile is flooded with comments from former colleagues expressing shock and disappointment. Someone has already created a Twitter hashtag, #BiogenScandal. "This is a disaster," she says, scrolling through increasingly harsh comments. "My reputation is ruined." "It's just allegations," I remind her. "You're innocent until proven guilty." She looks at me with something approaching desperation. "Roland, I need you to know something. Yes, I approved those expense reports, but I was told they were legitimate business expenses. If there were irregularities, I was deceived too." The lies are evolving now, becoming more sophisticated as she realizes the gravity of her situation. She's no longer claiming complete innocence. Too much evidence for that. Instead, she's positioning herself as a victim of manipulation. "Who told you they were legitimate?" I ask. She hesitates, and I can see her calculating how much truth she can afford to reveal. "Philip, he said they were for client entertainment, team building events, that sort of thing. I trusted him." "So you're saying he lied to you?" "I'm saying I may have been given incomplete information when I made those approvals." It's a careful answer, the kind that might hold up in court if she can make it stick, but it requires throwing Philip completely under the bus, painting him as the mastermind and herself as the naive accomplice. "Have you talked to him since yesterday?" Her expression hardens. "He won't return my calls. His lawyer sent a message through the company's legal department saying he won't be discussing the case with anyone pending the investigation." "That seems cold, considering you work together." "Work together, past tense." She sets down her phone and looks at me directly. "Roland, there's something else I need to tell you, something personal." Here it comes, the confession I've been waiting for. "Philip and I, we were more than just colleagues. We were involved, romantically." I let my face show the appropriate shock and hurt. "You were having an affair?" "Yes. I'm sorry. I know this makes everything worse, but I couldn't keep lying to you, especially now." The irony is almost overwhelming. She's finally telling me the truth about the affair while lying about everything else. "How long?" I ask quietly. 6 months. Maybe a little longer." "Were you planning to leave me for him?" She looks away. "I don't know. Maybe. Everything's so complicated now." "And the expense reports? Were you using company money to fund your relationship?" Some of the charges might have been for personal activities, but I genuinely believed they fell within acceptable guidelines for employee entertainment. More lies, but delivered with enough truth mixed in to seem plausible. She's good at this. I can see why she's been successful in HR. The ability to spin uncomfortable truths into acceptable narratives is a valuable skill. "I need some air," I tell her. "This is a lot to process." "Roland, please don't leave. We need to talk about this, figure out what we're going to do." "I'm just going for a walk. I'll be back." I head out into the crisp October morning, pulling out my phone as soon as I'm out of sight of the house. Sophie answers on the first ring. "Saw the news," she says without preamble. "How's our girl handling her 15 minutes of fame?" "About as well as you'd expect. She's starting to panic, trying to control the narrative." "And?" "She confessed to the affair, but claims she was manipulated into approving the fraudulent expenses." Sophie laughs. "Classic. Throw the boyfriend under the bus to save herself." "Exactly. But here's the interesting part. She's still lying to me about the extent of her involvement. She wants me to believe she's a victim in all this." "Are you going to let her?" I consider the question as I walk through our neighborhood, past houses where normal families are enjoying normal Saturday mornings, families where the parents aren't corporate criminals and the marriages aren't built on lies. For now, I want to see how far she'll take it. Be careful, Ro. Desperate people do stupid things. I'm counting on it. When I return home an hour later, I find Catherine on the phone with someone who's obviously a lawyer. She's pacing the kitchen, gesturing animatedly as she talks. Absolutely no intention to defraud the company. These were judgment calls made in good faith based on information provided by a colleague. She sees me and holds up a finger, indicating she'll be done soon. Yes, I understand the seriousness of the situation. No, I have not spoken to Mr. Grayson since the investigation began. My husband, he's been completely supportive. No, he had no knowledge of any of this. The conversation continues for another 10 minutes, with Catherine providing carefully crafted answers to questions I can only guess at. When she finally hangs up, she looks exhausted. That was my attorney. She thinks we can fight this, but it's going to be expensive, and there are no guarantees. What kind of expenses are we talking about? $50,000 for a retainer, maybe twice that if it goes to trial. I whistle low. That's a lot of money. We might have to take out a second mortgage on the house. The casual assumption that I'll help fund her defense is breathtaking. She's asking me to mortgage our home to pay for lawyers to defend her against charges stemming from her affair. Let me think about it, I tell her. Think about it? Roland, this is my career, my freedom we're talking about. I understand that, but $50,000 is a lot of money. I need to consider all our options. She stares at me like I've grown a second head. What options? I'm your wife. We're supposed to be a team. Are we? Because for the last 6 months, it's felt more like I was playing for a team that didn't want me on it. The words come out harsher than I intended, but they have the desired effect. Catherine's face crumples, and for a moment she looks genuinely remorseful. You're right. I've been a terrible wife. I got caught up in something that made me feel, I don't know, alive again. Important. But it was wrong, and I'm sorry. Sorry for the affair, or sorry you got caught? Both, all of it. Roland, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need your help. Without it, I could go to prison. Prison. The word hangs in the air between us, heavy with implication. She's finally starting to understand the magnitude of what she's facing. I'll call the bank on Monday, I tell her, see what our options are for the mortgage. Relief floods her face. Thank you. I promise I'll make this up to you somehow. We'll see. That afternoon, while Catherine is upstairs making more phone calls to lawyers and former colleagues, I receive an unexpected visitor. The doorbell rings, and I open it to find Philip Grayson standing on my front porch. He looks terrible, unshaven, wearing rumpled clothes that suggest he slept in them. His usual corporate polish is completely gone, replaced by the desperate air of a man whose world is collapsing. Roland, he says, his voice hoarse. I need to talk to you. I don't think that's a good idea, Philip. You and Catherine are both under investigation. Your lawyers probably wouldn't approve. Please, 5 minutes. There are things you need to know. Against my better judgment, I step outside and close the door behind me. What do you want? I want you to know that this wasn't supposed to happen. The investigation, the media attention, none of it. Someone leaked information to corporate compliance, and now everything's spiraling out of control. Someone? You mean a whistleblower? I mean someone with access to private communications who wanted to destroy us. He's fishing, trying to figure out how the company got their evidence. But there's also something else in his voice, a note of suspicion that makes me nervous. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you know more about this situation than you're letting on. My heart rate spikes, but I keep my expression neutral. I don't know what you mean. Come on, Roland. The timing of this investigation, the specific evidence they have, someone fed them information, someone who had access to Catherine's personal communications. Are you accusing me of something? I'm saying that if you're responsible for this, you've made a huge mistake. Catherine and I, what we had was real. But she was never going to leave you. She told me that repeatedly. The lie is so blatant it's almost insulting. I've read their emails. I know exactly what Catherine told him about our marriage and her plans for the future. Even if that were true, I say, it wouldn't justify corporate fraud. Corporate fraud? He laughs bitterly. Is that what you think this is about? Roland, they weren't just planning to frame you for the expense report violations. They were going to destroy your entire life. They? Catherine and the company. She's been feeding them information about your computer skills, your access to university systems. They were building a case that you'd been hacking into Biogenesis servers and manipulating financial records. This is new information, and it hits me like a physical blow. The plan was even more elaborate than I realized. Why are you telling me this? Because she's throwing me under the bus to save herself, and I thought you should know what kind of person you're married to. He turns to leave, then stops and looks back at me. One more thing, Roland. If you are responsible for this investigation, you should know that Catherine's already figured it out. She's just waiting for the right moment to use it against you. After he leaves, I stand on my front porch for a long time, processing what he's told me. The plan was worse than I thought, and Catherine suspects my involvement. The game is entering a new phase, one where the stakes are higher and the risks more personal. When I go back inside, Catherine is waiting in the living room with a strange expression on her face. "Who was that?" she asks. "Philip. He wanted to talk." "About what?" "The investigation. He's scared, trying to figure out how the company got their evidence." She nods slowly. "And what did you tell him?" "Nothing. I told him he should talk to his lawyer, not me." "Good." She pauses, studying my face. "Roland, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "That night last week when you found me working late on my laptop, did you look at anything while I was in the shower?" The question is casual, almost offhand, but I can feel the weight behind it. This is the test. She suspects, but she's not certain. How I answer will determine what happens next. "I might have glanced at the screen when I walked by," I say carefully. "Why?" "Just wondering. The investigators seem to know things that weren't in official company communications. I'm trying to figure out where they got their information." "Maybe someone at the company reported you, a colleague who noticed irregularities." "Maybe." She doesn't sound convinced. "Roland, I want you to know that whatever happens with this investigation, whatever comes out about my relationship with Philip, I love you. I've always loved you." Another lie, delivered with practiced sincerity. But this one feels different, more dangerous, because I can see in her eyes that she knows. Maybe not the full extent of my involvement, but enough to be planning her next move. "I love you too," I tell her, matching her false sincerity with my own. We're both lying now, both playing a game where the rules keep changing. But I have one advantage she doesn't know about. I know she's lying. She still thinks I might be telling the truth. That advantage won't last much longer. But maybe it doesn't need to. The investigation is already in motion, the evidence already in the hands of people who can act on it. Whatever Catherine is planning, she may be too late to stop what's coming. The end game is approaching, and I intend to be the one left standing when the dust settles. Sunday arrives with an unseasonable thunderstorm that seems to mirror the tension building in our house. Catherine spends the morning on the phone with her lawyer, her voice growing more agitated with each conversation. I can hear fragments through the closed door of her office. Need to consider a plea bargain, and if they have additional evidence, and criminal charges are almost certain. The walls are closing in, and she knows it. I'm in the kitchen making lunch when she finally emerges, looking haggard and defeated. The confident corporate executive is gone, replaced by someone who looks like she hasn't slept in days. "We need to talk," she says, her voice flat. "Okay. What about?" She sits across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where we've shared thousands of meals over 15 years of marriage, but today feels different, final somehow. "My lawyer thinks someone close to the investigation leaked information to the media. The details in those news reports, they're too specific, too accurate. Someone with inside knowledge is feeding stories to reporters?" "That's terrible. Any idea who?" She studies my face carefully. "A few possibilities. Disgruntled employees, corporate rivals, people with personal grudges." "Personal grudges?" "Roland, I know you looked at my laptop that night. I know you saw the emails." The accusation hangs in the air between us like smoke from a fire that's been smoldering for days. I could deny it, keep playing the innocent husband, but something in her eyes tells me the game has changed. "Yes," I say simply. "I saw them." She nods, as if confirming something she already knew. "All of them?" "Enough." "And you went to the company?" "Yes." "Why?" It's a good question, one I've been asking myself for days. Why did I choose corporate revenge over a simple divorce? Why did I decide to destroy her career along with our marriage? "Because you weren't just having an affair," I tell her. "You were stealing from your company to fund it, and you were planning to frame me for your crimes." "I was protecting us. If the fraud had been discovered, they would have looked for someone to blame. Better you than me. You could have handled prison better than I could." The casual cruelty of it takes my breath away. She's admitting to planning my destruction and framing it as an act of love. "Better me than you," I repeat. "That's really how you see our marriage, isn't it? I'm expendable." "You're practical, logical. You would have understood the necessity." "The necessity of framing your husband for crimes you committed?" She shrugs. "It was just a contingency plan. It probably never would have come to that." Probably. My entire future reduced to a probability calculation in her mind. "Well," I say, "I guess we'll never know now." "No, we won't." She leans back in her chair, and I see something shift in her expression. The defeated woman is gone, replaced by someone harder, more calculating. But there are still things we can control. Such as? The narrative. My lawyer thinks if we present a united front, the devoted husband standing by his wife during a difficult time, It could help with public perception and potentially with sentencing. You want me to lie for you. I want you to support me, like you promised you would. That was before I knew you were planning to send me to prison. I was never going to let it go that far. There would have been other options. More lies, delivered with the same casual confidence she's always had. Even now, facing criminal charges and public humiliation, she believes she can manipulate her way out of consequences. What if I say no? I ask. Then you'll be making a mistake. A big one. There's something in her tone that makes me pay attention. This isn't just a request, it's a threat. What do you mean? She pulls out her phone and shows me a series of screenshots. They're images of my computer screen, taken from behind while I was reviewing the evidence I'd gathered. The photos show me accessing her email, downloading files, copying documents. I've been documenting your activities for the past week, she says. Unauthorized access to private communications, theft of proprietary corporate information, conspiracy to damage a publicly traded company. If I go down, Roland, I'm taking you with me. The photos are damning, clearly showing me in the act of gathering evidence. But there's something about them that bothers me. The angle, the timing, the fact that she was able to take them without me noticing. When did you take these? Does it matter? It does if you want them to hold up in court. Some of these show me accessing files that were already on your laptop. Files you brought into our home. A good lawyer could argue I had a right to see them. Her confidence wavers slightly. Maybe. But do you really want to find out? Because I promise you, if you don't help me through this, I will make sure you face charges too. And Ethan? What happens to him while we're both fighting criminal cases? He'll stay with my sister in California until this gets sorted out. Her sister, the one who's never liked me, who's always thought Catherine married beneath her, the one who would love nothing more than to raise my son to believe his father is a criminal. You've got it all figured out, don't you? I've got contingency plans. I always do. I look at this woman I've been married to for 15 years and realize I never really knew her at all. The corporate executive, the master manipulator, the person who plans her husband's destruction with the same efficiency she brings to quarterly reviews. There's just one problem with your plan, I tell her. What's that? You're assuming I care more about avoiding charges than I do about stopping you. Before she can respond, the doorbell rings. We both freeze, looking at each other across the table like gunfighters waiting to draw. Expecting someone? She asks. No, you? She shakes her head, but I can see the fear in her eyes. Unexpected visitors are never good news when you're under criminal investigation. I go to the door and look through the peephole. 2 people in dark suits, 1 man and 1 woman, both carrying the kind of leather portfolios that scream federal agents. FBI, I call back to Catherine and watch her face go white. I open the door. Can I help you? Mr. Mercer, I'm Agent Sarah Mitchell. This is Agent David Park. We're with the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. We'd like to speak with you and your wife about the biogenesis investigation. Of course. Please come in. They enter our living room, and I call for Catherine. She appears a moment later, having somehow managed to compose herself and put on a professional mask. Mrs. Mercer, Agent Mitchell says, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. The words hit like physical blows. Money laundering. That's a new charge, one that carries serious prison time. Money laundering? Catherine's voice is barely a whisper. The fraudulent expenses were processed through multiple corporate accounts and personal credit cards in a pattern consistent with money laundering activities, Agent Park explains. You have the right to remain silent. As they read her rights, I watch my wife's world collapse in real time. The confident executive, the master manipulator, the woman who always had a contingency plan, reduced to a criminal defendant in handcuffs. Roland, she says as they lead her toward the door, call my lawyer, and remember what we discussed. The threat is clear. Even with federal agents as witnesses, she's still trying to control the situation, still believing she can manipulate her way out of consequences. After they leave, I sit in my empty house and process what just happened. 15 years of marriage ended with handcuffs and Miranda rights. A family destroyed by greed and betrayal and the kind of casual cruelty that treats loved ones as expendable. My phone rings. It's Sophie. Saw the news, she says. FBI just arrested Catherine. You okay? I think so. Still processing. What about Ethan? School doesn't end for another hour. I need to figure out how to tell him his mother's been arrested. Want me to come over? Yeah, that would be good. She arrives 30 minutes later, bringing Chinese takeout and the kind of practical support that only family can provide. We sit in my kitchen, eating lo mein and planning for a future I never imagined. What's next? She asks. Divorce proceedings, probably. Custody arrangements. Figuring out how to rebuild a life. And the threats? The photos she showed you? I pull out my phone and show her the screenshots Catherine had taken. Sophie studies them with the trained eye of someone who's spent years building criminal cases. These are interesting, she says finally. Interesting how? The metadata. See the timestamps? Some of these were taken after she was already under investigation. If she was documenting your activities to use against you, why didn't she stop you? Why let you gather evidence that would incriminate her? It's a good question, one that makes me reconsider everything I thought I understood about the past week. Maybe she was planning to use them as leverage, I suggest. Or maybe she was setting up her own defense. Think about it. If she can prove you had access to her communications, she can argue that you planted evidence or manipulated files. The possibility chills me. Even in defeat, Catherine was still playing chess while I was playing checkers. Would it work? Depends on the evidence and the lawyers, but it might create enough reasonable doubt to avoid conviction. We're interrupted by the sound of the front door opening. Ethan's home from school, and I can hear him calling out as he drops his backpack in the hallway. Dad? Why are there news vans outside? Sophie and I exchange glances. The media has found our house. In here, buddy, I call back. He appears in the kitchen doorway, looking between Sophie and me with the kind of wariness that comes from living in a house full of secrets for too long. What's going on? There are reporters on our street, and kids at school were saying stuff about Mom. I take a deep breath. This is the conversation I've been dreading, the moment when my son's childhood officially ends. Sit down, Ethan. We need to talk. As I explain the situation, the investigation, the charges, the arrest, I watch my 15-year-old son process information that no child should have to understand. He listens without interrupting, his face growing more serious with each revelation. So Mom's in jail? He asks when I finish. For now. She'll probably be released on bail tomorrow or the next day. And she really stole money from her company? The FBI thinks so. There will be a trial to determine if she's guilty. He nods slowly, processing this new reality. What happens to us? We'll figure it out. You and me will figure it out together. Are you getting divorced? The blunt question catches me off guard, but I realize he deserves an honest answer. Probably, yes. Good, he says quietly. I was tired of pretending everything was normal when it obviously wasn't. Smart kid. Smarter than his parents, apparently. That evening, after Sophie leaves and Ethan retreats to his room to process everything, I sit in my office and consider the wreckage of my old life. Tomorrow, there will be lawyers and reporters and all the messy complications of a high-profile criminal case. There will be custody hearings and divorce proceedings and the challenge of rebuilding a reputation in a town where everyone knows your business. But tonight, for the first time in months, I feel something I'd almost forgotten. Peace. The game is over. The lies have been exposed. The woman who called me inadequate, who planned my destruction with casual efficiency, who treated our marriage like a corporate merger to be dissolved when it no longer served her interests. She's facing the consequences of her choices. I didn't compete with Philip Grayson for my wife's affections. Competition implies acknowledging an equal, and I was never going to be equal in their eyes. Instead, I eliminated them both with the kind of surgical precision that comes from understanding systems and exploiting weaknesses. One email to corporate compliance changed everything. He lost his job. She lost her freedom. I lost nothing that wasn't already gone. Outside, thunder rumbles across the Boston sky, and rain pounds against the windows of our historic brownstone. But inside, in the house that's finally mine again, everything is quiet. The underdog's gambit is complete.